This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Bergamy.
Well, not exactly. Kenny B off this week. In his place, the pride of Rocky Face, Georgia. The one, the only, John Holcomb. And dare I say, I am honored to be sharing the same studio with him. Take us to the rundown there, John.
Don't mind if I do, Mr. DeLessio. Straight ahead on the program. Beef sustainability, how it's evolved over the years and how it continues to improve thanks to organizations like the Georgia Beef Board. Also on the show, a visit to Athens and a new program at UGA involving honeybees and how it's expected to make the College of Veterinary Medicine even better if that's possible. Plus,
hey everybody, Ranger Nick coming up a little bit later. If you've got livestock on your farm and you're curious about mineral intake of those animals, is it good or not? The Monitor's doing a little monitoring this month. We're going to be taking some liver biopsies of these ladies. That and a whole lot more starts right now on the Farm Monitor.
Sustainability is a word that's been used a lot lately, but is something that farmers and producers have been practicing for decades and is something that they take very seriously. I recently sat down with Dale Sandlin from the Georgia Beef Board and learned about how the beef industry and sustainability go hand in hoof. In the past few years, there has been a lot of discussions on sustainability here in the U.S., and in those discussions, agriculture has been at the center, and the beef industry certainly hasn't been exempt. But the fact is that the beef industry has had a focus on sustainability for years, and is something that is deep-rooted in cattle producers here in Georgia and all over the country.
Sustainability is a word that gets used a lot, especially in agriculture. And what does that mean, specifically for the beef industry? For us, it's being able to not only continue to improve and take care of the water and land resources that we've been entrusted with, but also in order to continue to raise high-quality beef and continue to improve through genetics, through advanced technologies, the ability to grow more beef using fewer cattle and do that in a way that's not only productive but profitable for that farm family to be able to transfer that to the next generation.
In order to be more sustainable, in the past few decades, the beef industry has been working hard by improving genetics, technology, and increasing productivity. In fact, the U.S. produces 18% of the world's beef production, with only 6% of the world's cattle, and amazingly has been doing that all while reducing their carbon footprint.
Compared to other parts of the world, the U.S. cattle industry is sitting at about 10 to 50 times less carbon emissions than other parts of the world, and that's a huge story to tell. The biggest reason why that's the case is that we've adopted new technologies. We've focused on genetics. We've been able to produce more cattle and more beef with fewer resources from a natural perspective.
One way they're able to do that is due to the fact that cattle are naturally sustainable.
Due to a cow's physiological makeup, they're actually able to take advantage of plants that we're not able to consume. And they're able to do that in a way that creates high quality protein for human consumption. And so we actually call that upcycling. They're taking that product that can't be used from humans for food and converting that into a food product that we can use. They're able to make a consistent impact on our natural resources.
Sustainability in the beef industry is very important, especially given the fact that beef is an important part of global food security.
We look at the total number of people that we're going to have to feed in 50 years, and without cattle playing a major part of that process, we may fall short in being able to provide and feed for the rest of the world. And so the practices that farmers and ranchers have, especially in the state of Georgia, are contributing to not only continuing to reduce that carbon footprint, but also in feeding the rest of the world.
Just to prove how successful their practices are, between 1975 and 2017, the U.S. beef industry reduced emissions by 30%, something that's nothing shy of incredible. Ray?
Thank you so much, John. Well, a new school year, and already there is quite the buzz surrounding a new program inside UGA's College of Veterinary Medicine. Damon Jones tells you about the class that's benefiting the entire ag industry.
Despite nearly a third of what we eat being pollinated by bees, their importance to the agricultural community is often overlooked. And that extends into the veterinary field, where programs focused on bee health are few and far between. It's an oversight the University of Georgia is looking to correct with this new class.
In the classical veterinary curriculum, there is not much room to be educated from a veterinary aspect about bee health. And so the idea of the program is to introduce the students to the multifaceted approach, how the veterinarians can and should help the apiary industry.
This just adds to a one-of-a-kind veterinary program at UGA that allows students to work with an unprecedented variety of animals, both big and small.
We have residents that are being trained for 4 years in becoming board certified specialists in all species exotic. And the uniqueness is that our residents are literally getting hands-on and practical training from everything down invertebrates, bees, all the way up to beluga whales at the aquarium and elephants at the zoo. So that's literally the only program in the country where the residents are getting that breadth of experience.
With a recent initiative designed to prevent antibiotic resistance by controlling the purchase of certain medications, it's more important than ever to have veterinarians well versed in bee health.
Before 2017, beekeepers and apiarists were able to actually just purchase antibiotics over the counter. And so basically now, if there's a bacterial disease that affects a colony or a collection, the apiarist has to get either a veterinary feed directive or a prescription from a veterinarian.
And that's not the only reason this program is so important, as honeybees face a number of different challenges on a daily basis, from the varroa mite to beetles.
Unfortunately, when you have a parasite being introduced into a naive population that doesn't know how to deal with it, the parasite can cause tremendous harm to that population. And that's what we're seeing in the United States. We have a situation where, depending from state to state, some beekeepers are reporting a loss of like 40% of their colonies. And so we're really trying to make a difference to educating this new generation of veterinarians to recognize these problems early and to help with drugs and management strategies.
And so far the response has been overwhelmingly positive, as students have shown a great interest in the program. In fact, it's been so well received that an expansion has already been planned for next year.
So now we have, hopefully in spring, 8 hives going, which means I can literally take a group of students every week to open the hives, and therefore cycle through a lot of students in the year and expose each of them to a hands-on experience. So it really has been overwhelming, and that's a great thing to experience.
Reporting from Athens, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
Well, everybody, coming up, we're talking about mineral deficiency, how to know if your cows have it or not, and how to test for it using liver biopsies. We're doing a little monitoring after you watch this.
If you're a cattle producer, then you know firsthand the importance of keeping up with your herd's overall health. In his latest edition of Ranger Nick, UGA professor Dr. Nick Furman shows us one particular way experts say is to the point, scientific, and extremely accurate.
Well, you know I'm a big animal lover, and I think about the health of livestock sometimes. I'm not a veterinarian, but I want to introduce you to someone who is, who can tell us a little something about monitoring your livestock on your property, and that's Dr. Brent Credell. Dr. Credell, I would shake your hand or elbow you there. Look at that. Just say, hey. Dr. Credell is a vet, large animal vet, and associate professor at UGA's vet school, and what a premier place to be if you're learning about large animals and the health of them. I'm aware that large animals can be deficient in particular minerals, and many of our viewers might as well, and might monitor that. But when I think about monitoring a large animal, I think immediately about taking a blood sample and sending that off and having it examined. Doc, you're saying there's another way potentially to examine the internal health, and how would we do that?
Right, Nick. So in this area of the country, our soils are particularly deficient in copper. Selenium is also another challenge that we have, and it is not unusual for us to work with cattle herds that have clinical syndromes emerge that are associated with deficiencies of those. Normally when we think of taking a diagnostic sample from a large animal, a small animal, we think about blood.
Sure.
And that certainly can be done, but one of the issues we have is that some of the mineral pools in animals, particularly in the bloodstream, are a little unstable.
Okay.
They're really subject to changes in feed intake. They are associated with changes in health status. And so those blood samples may not give us as accurate a representation as tissue samples might. And so probably the most accurate way to assess the trace mineral status of a large animal is going to be a liver sample. It seems invasive, but if you want information that you can use to help solve a problem in the herd, that's going to be the better way for us to do it, more accurate information that we can use more effectively.
And we're about to go and do this with a live animal right here on camera. And some of the ways that you might know that there is potentially a problem if I'm looking out across my herd might be what?
So most of the time when we're called to do these tests, we're doing it in a reactive fashion. A producer has identified a problem. Some of the more common problems we see would be reproductive issues. We don't have enough cows pregnant, or maybe we have come into a herd where they've lost a lot of pregnancies. Other things that we might see would be an excessive amount of a certain type of disease. Diarrhea, pneumonia, probably the most common scenarios we'll deal with from an infectious disease standpoint. And something that we also see relatively commonly would be weak, stillborn calves that presents an issue from a welfare standpoint that way.
Interesting. And before we go and do this and show everybody at home what we're about to do, how are we going to take this sample? Just how do we do this?
Yeah, so the techniques we use can look a little bit scary.
Okay.
So we're going to use a relatively long needle. This is a 15 centimeter biopsy needle that we are going to insert through the cow's rib cage into the liver and collect the sample that way.
Wow. Well, let's go and do it. Let's go into the barn, let's take a look at this animal, and let's assess and see what's going on with the situations. Come on. We're about to demonstrate what this veterinarian is going to do with this girl to sample from the liver. And I just want to preface all this by saying we're not going to cut into her today. I'm pretty squeamish myself, and I might pass out on you here. We're going to demonstrate what Dr. would do, but we just want to walk it through. So, Doc, we're standing here with this girl. You've opened this window up. What's our first step if I'm your student today?
So the first step with this procedure is identifying the landmarks that we'll use for proper needle placement. So the sample that we're going to collect is going to be collected between her 10th and 11th ribs. It's going to be collected level with her hip. So what I do is I will walk back, identify the point of the hip that I'd like to use. I come across to the last rib. And cattle have 13 ribs, so I know that this last rib is rib number 13. And then I will work my way over from rib 13 to rib 12, rib 11, and then rib 10. And between those two are the landmarks that I'll use for needle placement.
Always between 10 and 11?
Always between 10 and 11.
Interesting. Okay.
Once I've identified my landmarks, the next step is to get the site prepared for sample collection. And to do that, we prepare it just as we would any surgical site, so our sample is sterile. So we'll come over, we'll collect our soap, our alcohol into our site, scrub that, so our sample is going to be sterile and we don't predispose her to any complications such as an infection. Once that's done, so that she doesn't feel any discomfort during the course of this process, we use lidocaine to numb the site. We want everything that we do to be done humanely as possible and for her not to experience any discomfort that may jeopardize her welfare. So again, we do use lidocaine. We'll inject our lidocaine under the skin. Once we're under the skin, into the muscles of the rib as well. Once that's done, we have a scalpel blade that we'll use, and that scalpel blade is going to be used then.
Look at that. Wow.
To go through the skin and the muscle so that we don't do any damage to our needle or cause any more damage to the tissues with the needle and avoid, again, any discomfort to her.
How long after the Novocaine goes in are you able to cut?
Within about a minute.
Wow.
It doesn't take very long for that to act at all.
Okay.
Once the stab incision is made, we take our biopsy needle.
This is the big one we were talking about before. 15, what'd you say, how long was it?
So this is a 15 centimeter needle.
Wow, okay.
We take our biopsy needle, remove the outer sheath. We prepare it for collection. We'll go into our site. Once we're in, typically we need to go about half the depth of the needle, maybe just a little bit more to get through the skin, the muscle, and into the liver. Once we're in, discharge it, and our sample's collected.
Okay, so what you're looking at right now is an actual piece of a sample of a liver. And I know before I got into this segment with you today, Doc, I was envisioning like a chunk of steak coming out of a cow on that liver. We're talking about 1/4 of an inch at the most, a very tiny sample. So glad to hear that. And that animal is going to recover just fine.
Correct. So the sample we take is about 10 milligrams, so relatively small. And it's somewhere between a centimeter, maybe 1.5 centimeters in length. So an incredibly small sample. And that small sample allows the lab that we ship that to do a lot with it. So,
and what are they doing? What are they giving you back?
Right. So the sample goes to a diagnostic lab that is very well known for their expertise with trace minerals. And they send us back a report that covers toxic heavy metals, as well as 10 trace minerals that are commonly seen in deficiency in different areas of the country. That report comes back to us typically within 7 days. Okay. And once that report is back, we know normal, abnormal, and can at that point begin to make recommendations.
Okay, and we're talking about copper, selenium. Typically it's low, not too high.
Correct. So in this area of the country, we tend to see deficiencies or low levels of copper and selenium. It's rare that we find toxic levels of those in most of the animals we're working with. We are very interested in teaching students, helping them understand how they can be a resource for their clients moving forward. So they're involved every step of the way, from making the recommendation that liver samples are needed, to collection of the liver samples, and then once the data comes back, interpreting that data and putting together a report in conjunction with the producer, typically the extension agent, and also involving extension nutritionist, learning how to work together as a team so that they provide the best recommendations for everyone that's involved. Everybody gets the most yield.
Wow. Doc, thanks so much for joining us today. What a great use of extension and students' experiential learning. I hope you all enjoyed this. I sure did. You know what to do. While you're online checking out some of our previous Ranger Nick videos on YouTube and see what Ray and Kenny have got going on, hop over to the Farm Monitor Facebook page and check that out. And until next time, Brent, as we always say, I'm Ranger Nick for the Farm Monitor, reminding you that enthusiasm is contagious. So pass it on. Y'all, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here next month. See ya.
True or false? This here, often seen on farms and in backyards, is a garden snake. The answer when the show continues.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hey, What Do You Know? My name is Kathy Church. I'm a programming coordinator with the Wildlife Resources Division, and today's topic is garter snakes. Now, garter snakes are often mistakenly called garden snakes. They're not named for where they live. They're actually named for the stripes on their back. Their scientific name, Thamnophis sertalis, loosely translates to bush snake that looks like a garter strap. So instead of being named for a habitat, they're actually named for a man's sock holder. But you've probably seen these guys around because garter snakes are one of the most common snakes in all of North America. And with very good reason. Garter snakes are ovoviviparous. Now what that means is they have eggs, but they hold them in their body until they're ready to hatch. So garter snakes actually give birth to live babies. And when they do, the clutch size or number of babies is usually about 20 to 40. But they are on record having as many as 101 babies all at once. Now that is a bunch of babies. So you may see a garter snake in your garden, but you may also see him in a grassland, a prairie, a swamp, a woodland like what you see behind me. But wherever you see him, there's going to be one common factor, and that's water. Because a garter snake's favorite food is amphibians. Now they'll eat anything they can overpower. So that means bugs, slugs, snails, minnows, earthworms, even lizards, other snakes and small mammals, whatever they can get a hold of. But their favorite is frogs, toads, salamanders, and newts. Those are the best. So if he's going to be able to catch those guys, he's going to need some special tools. And one of the first things we notice is this beautiful camouflage. Garth here has got black that helps him blend into the shadows. He's got brown that helps him to blend with the soil. But the best is this beautiful greenish blue color. That helps him blend in with the plants around the water so that he can sneak up on those amphibians and eat them. But also as important, this helps him hide from predators. Birds like great blue herons, raccoons, possums, other snakes, even large frogs and fish, they're a danger for this guy. They'll eat him right up. So his color helps him to hide. Cool thing is, even his tongue is 2 different colors. The tip is black and the back is red. Why? We have no idea. It's just something that's really cool about these guys. But when he catches that frog that he wants to eat, he doesn't eat like other snakes. He's not a constrictor, so he doesn't squeeze his food. And he's not technically venomous. He doesn't have true fangs, so he can't disable the prey with venom. He actually eats it live. So if he's going to eat a frog live, he's going to need a little help, because frogs have their own defense mechanism. A frog can actually gulp down air and puff up his body and make himself look big, and it also makes him hard to swallow. No problem. Garter snakes have sharp, elongated teeth in the back of their mouth that they can use to pop that toad, swallow him right down. But also located right behind their eyes back here is what's called the Duvernois gland. The Duvernois gland actually makes a mild venom, but like I said, he doesn't have any fangs, so what he has to do, he actually has to grab hold of that prey and kind of chew. That stuns the prey so that it doesn't try to escape while he's eating it. But frogs and toads and salamanders also have another defense. They actually exude a poison out of their skin glands called tetrodotoxin. Still not a problem for garter snakes. They're actually resistant to tetrodotoxin. Super cool thing is that toxin can actually build up in their liver and make the garter snake poisonous to predators that might want to eat him. So, hey, what do you know? A garter snake's not named after a garden. He's actually named after a man's sock suspender. Can have a whole bunch of babies all at one time, and they're actually venomous and poisonous, but not harmful to humans. They're actually very helpful to humans. They keep the small animal population in check. That's what they do. So I hope you learned something you didn't know before. And if you found this one interesting, keep an eye out for more. Hey, what do you know? Have a great day.
Kathy, thank you so much, and thank you for making this show possible.
Before we send you on your way, a friendly reminder to check out all of our social media platforms. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of agriculture and with us here at the show.
I am so proud of you. Good job.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week right here on the Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.